Hey, friends, we are super excited to have these two incredible people. They're incredible human beings. They are celebrated. They got the awards. They've been nominated. They've done so much in their young life because they are young. So we're excited about this conversation today. Let's hop right in. Jekalyn, I'm going to start with you. All right. You're new to our platform. We're so grateful to have the opportunity to resource the church with your music. I like to start from the beginning. Tell me about your beginnings as an artist and how your career has evolved.
Yeah, sure. So I started out singing at the age of 5 years old. And I thought singing was all that I was going to do. Then at the age of 13, I began to speak to me. He said, "There's more that I require of you." And you are to evangelize. So I accepted my calling of preaching at 13. And then about a year and a half later, after that, that's when God expanded my music ministry through Greater is Coming. So I pretty much been going strong ever since then. If you ask me if I knew I'd be here, I probably would say I ain't know it would be to this capacity.
That's
So
good.
faithful. It's been a beautiful journey, and I just love being able to serve people through the gifts that God has given me.
Wow. So at the early age of 5, and you say you was 13 when you started preaching?
Yes, that's correct.
What was your first message, girl? What was your first sermon title?
It's actually on YouTube. God has interrupted the plans of the enemy, and it was actually yeah, it was that video that
Wow.
my dad prayed, and he was like, "God, however you do it, I'll be satisfied." And so he uploaded the YouTube video, and ever since then, I've never had a dull schedule.
Wow, that is incredible how God has a way of jumping center stage on your life and like blowing it up. And we're going to talk about your journey a little more. Melvin, you come from an incredible family, such a rich history. I mean, your mom's an incredible singer. Your dad, he was an incredible musician. I cannot tell you how many hours I used to sit down trying to learn your dad's stuff to no avail. I mean, the Melvin
Wow.
Crispell sauce, like the minor movements. Man, I couldn't play that stuff,
Yeah.
man, that him and John Peters, those guys were doing. I want to ask you this, man. Speak to your heritage and how it shaped your artistry and your ministry today.
Yes. Well, growing up in that type of household, of course, I was surrounded by music. Of course,
Mhm.
particularly gospel music. Being able to be so young and going to different conferences like GMWA and
Wow.
those different things, I got to just experience a lot. I started singing at a young age as well. Um,
Okay.
I was singing at the age of 2, but nowhere near the lovely Jekalyn Carr. But I always knew that I wanted to sing and I wanted to minister to people. And being around my mom, she not only kept me influenced in gospel, but as well as jazz, as well as opera. She
Wow.
graduated as an opera singer from Nyack College, and I got to you know
Wow.
as my babysitter, I would go to a lot of her classes and just not really knowing exactly what was going on, but just hearing and like kind of picking up and gravitating towards different techniques that I would just hear. It has helped develop me as a singer. And growing up, they would train me in the word. They would train me, keep me in church.
Hmm.
Taught me the right ways to go about things, to be humble, to be kind, and those things really help shape not just me as a person, but who I am as a minister and an artist. I'm not a licensed minister, but just an evangelist. Sing the word of God and sing over God's people. So that's really how I got my start.
So that explains your, first of all, your crazy range because it's endless and your control.
Thank you.
Because you got people that have a lot of range but they don't have control, and
Yeah,
that it really explains it, man. I study classical music, and it's a totally different thing, so
yeah.
that's really great to hear. So Jekalyn, with you, I know you talked about getting started at 5. My question is, when did you know that God, like, this is what God had placed you on this earth to do, was to sing, to be a part of the gospel industry, to preach? When was that settled in your heart?
Well, 5 years old. I
Wow.
yeah, I knew then because
Wow.
my history, of course I grew up in the church, and then my
Yeah.
mom and they sing quartet music. So my mom, she never left us at home. We was always with her on the road and all
Church
of that.
fans.
I knew that this wasn't just something that because I knew how to do it or I saw
Mm-hmm.
it that I wanted to do it. No, it was I knew it was my purpose. I knew it was my calling. And as far as being in the industry and this and that and the third, I didn't, I just saw myself singing on stages. I didn't know that it would
Mm-hmm.
be, you know, even when it came to accolades and awards, like I would, first of all, when I first was nominated for Stellar, which was 16, I didn't even know I had
Right.
won. That's how you knew. We
Please, yeah, tell us that story.
I'm in the hotel room and they like, you won, right? I was just lost. But
Wow.
cards and all of that. Didn't know anything about none of that. I just knew
Mm-hmm.
that this is what I love to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, for me it began at a very, very young age. I couldn't resist it. Everywhere I went, whether it was in the mirror or whatever, I was singing something.
Yeah. I love that. I think it really speaks to because both of you had parents that God had given them insight into your gifting, and that allowed you to get started earlier. I think that right there is huge. If you are fortunate and blessed enough to be a part of a family where God reveals to your parents, like they have this gift, and then they invest in that gift. It really is no surprise that God has been able to do what He's been able to do in your life. So, Melvin, I want to ask you the same question. When did you know that the issue was settled? Because you know the industry, you guys are not just like singers. Y'all are singers. Y'all can do this on in any genre, on any stage. When did you know and settle the issue that this is gospel and this is what God is calling me to do?
I believe I was about 11 or 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until after we moved from New York to North Carolina, I started getting involved with my church, my home church now, the youth choir, the children's choir. And I got the opportunity, after a few months to, I believe it was sing in a Christmas production that my church would put on. And we sang a Crucified, Lay Behind the Stone. And that was my
Michael
first
W.
like
Smith.
solo. Yes, you're right. And so I think through leading that song, I just felt that presence. It was one of the first times I really felt the presence of God just
Mm-hmm.
like wash over me. And I remember a couple weeks later, I got to lead praise and worship with the youth choir. And the Lord just began to move on me so heavy. And like I went home that day feeling, just knowing that I think this is really what I'm called to do, not just
Wow.
sing, but to minister to people and people across generations. So that's really when I, knew.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so y'all are young, so I don't know if y'all even saw this movie. You ever seen this movie, Loving Hip Hop? Y'all ever seen that movie? Let me
Mm-mm.
Movie.
see. Y'all are, oh my God. I need y'all
Nope.
to, when you get off this here podcast, go look at Loving Hip Hop. All right. It's Shania Lathan, and I think it's Tay Diggs. All right. But anyway, there's a scene in the movie when there was like, so when did you know that, when did you fall in love with hip hop? All right, blah, blah, blah. So my question to you is, when did you fall in love with gospel? What was the record? What was the recording that you heard it and you was like, oh my God? For me, it was John P. Key, Never Shall Forget record. Y'all wouldn't know, it's way before y'all time too. But that was the record when
I know
I
that one. I
heard
know
it.
that one.
You know it, right? When I heard it, it was like, oh my God, I'll never forget where I was when I heard that record. So let's start with you, Melvin. What was the song? What was the record that like marked the beginning of your gospel journey?
That is a difficult question for me. Thinking back, I would have to say a record, James Hall Worship and Praise, and that's strictly because that's where my heart was. I was in all the rehearsals,
Yep.
all the recordings. I was there. Just got to experience that, and it
Uh-huh.
made me fall in love. But if I had to choose something outside that was so close, I would say either Mary Mary or Kurt Franklin. Mary Mary's Some People Believe That the Sky Is those albums. That was my childhood, growing up listening to those, and it just has those influences of jazz, gospel, and I just remember being a kid. Just that was my jam.
What was your Kirk record?
I would say the record that had, I can't remember the name of it, but Little Boy, Where You Going? Dun, 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 dun. That was one of the records for me that was just like, oh, this is it. Yeah.
All right, Jekalyn, what about you?
If you want my honest opinion,
I want your honest opinion.
Initially, it wasn't a particular record for me. It was me being at church as a little girl, and I would literally, because we used to go to a Baptist church when I was little, and I would hear the deacon saying, "I love the Lord, He heard," like that.
I love the Lord.
Yeah.
Listen, and the Dr. Watts, they would, so if you country, like, you know about those Dr. Watts,
Yeah.
River giving sight to the blind, stuff like that.
Wow.
But if I had to choose a record, I would probably say when I was a little girl too, we used to always drive to church on John P. Key, Rain on Us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to
the Liddell drum solo in there. Oh my God, that is so good. That is so good. All right, musical influences. I know it's hard. You talked about James Hall. You talked about Mary Mary. You talked about the deacons, and I call that's that call and response, that antiphonal singing, which has its roots in slavery. I mean, that is so. That's what the spirituals were. But what are some significant influences that you would say shape your sound? Jekalyn, let's go with you.
I'm gonna have to say, growing up listening to my mom.
Your mom.
Yeah, my mom. So, like I said, she sang with her sisters, in quartet, the Selvies, for years. And anyone who knows me knows that I love the legends, all of them, from Yolanda Adams, Pastor Donna McClurkin, Shirley Caesar, like all of them. They play a huge part, not just in sound, but for me, it was more so the longevity. You know what I mean? Like, watch them, like, to see how they're still singing, they're still going strong. I'm like, yeah, God, give me that grace 2 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, to be able to, okay, go ahead, Melvin. I'm gonna let you answer, and I want to come back to that because I think that was huge. That was really, really huge.
Yeah, and it's crazy you said that, Jekalyn. I was gonna say my mom and dad as well. That's just two of the catalysts, for my influences. My mom, every time she would go out to sing, I would be just as captivated as the rest of the audience. The way she just sang with grace, and with her tones and just her skill, that really impacted my life as a singer. But just industry influences. I got to be honest, I was the one that would sit in his room in the dark and study Kimberell top to bottom. I mean, all day, every day.
Which record? And let me ask you, which record?
It was no record. I promise. It was mainly her services when she had to preach. Different things like that. I would just watch those over and over. There's just so many little things that she would do that just help. And I will say that I didn't want to study her just for the runs and because I didn't want to copy. I just wanted to get behind the mindset, like the musical mindset of how she thought of this in this moment. Certain things like that. Erica Campbell, Tina Campbell, those are two influences for me.
I thought you was about to say Erykah Badu, man. I was like, no.
But outside of gospel, Harry Connick Jr. Was a big influence for me as a kid. Just tapping into the other side of music, just to be able to hear how he moved and how he did music, just how he made you feel and invited you into a space. Those were just some heavy influences for me.
Wow. So with those influences, Jekalyn, you talked about your mom, and then you talked about the legends, Yolanda. how do you seek to honor them through your sound?
I think for me, it's keeping the substance because when you listen to their music,
Come on,
it's
girl.
your
Come on.
substance. No matter which record you put on with either one of them. I think just the message within itself, carrying that on, and again, like I said, talking about singing about something. The packaging may be different. I don't limit myself when it comes to the packaging now, um, but I do try to make sure you still get some foundation in there to
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
feel in addition to the sound, I feel like lyrics takes your song a long way.
Hmm.
You really, dig deep to make sure that you're talking about something. And also when you listen to their records, it's like most of them don't have songs just for a moment or you can play in that moment. A
Hmm.
lot of their songs are still being played and still touching people to this very day. And that's what I want. I want songs that you can play season after season after season. And that's
Wow.
definitely love to keep going, strong when it comes to my music.
Wow. Wow. What about you, Melvin?
Absolutely. Like she said, creating timeless music, having lyrics that relate to people. And I really want to have a sound that's inviting to people. So to make people that are not just inside the four walls to inquire about, hey, he sounds great, but what is he singing about?
Hmm.
And that's something that, these legends have had throughout the years. And this is actually the first time I'm gonna touch on it, publicly. I am currently working on a project that is solely to honor these legends in their
Wow.
music and their careers. And when I saw the question, I was just like, wow, that's crazy that you would even ask that because very soon within the next very few months that I'm giving flowers to people while they're here. And
This is
even
so
to those
good.
who have gone on, they deserve that recognition.
They are so deserving of it, but oftentimes they don't get it. They
They
don't
don't.
get it because whether we acknowledge it or not, gospel music has influenced so many genres and so many people that are out there doing other things and recording different genres. I think, and but for you and the both of you to say, you know what, there's something that I got from Kim. There's something that I caught from Yolanda that I want to honor. And I want to make sure that when I am out in ministry, I'm taking those nuances. And it's crazy because when you said that, Melvin, because I've heard you, I'm like, wow, I see the connection. I see the connection. Not that you are a copy, not at all. You're your own person, Jekalyn. You have your own bona fide anointing, but you can sense that desire to make sure that okay, I'm. Bottom line is it's a deep well. Let me just say that. All right, you can tell with the both of you, it ain't no first generation thing. It is something that's in the blood that runs really, really deep. And to see what you all have accomplished in such a short amount of time, because even though Kayla, you've been in it since forever, since you was born, but I think it's absolutely incredible. My question is this: okay, you have won awards, Grammy, Stellars. I mean, Jekalyn, you're in the Songwriter Hall of Fame, Lifetime Achievement Awards. You won, hit TV shows. My question is this: how have God been able to take you so high, but you stay so grounded? Let's start with you, Jekalyn.
I have to say, number one, I always
Hmm.
understand that it's bigger than Jekalyn. And not only is it bigger than Jekalyn, but you also know that when there's a demand on your life, there should be a level of expectation for, people to pull on you, people to call on you, and all of that. However, I always ask myself, in addition to Jesus, how would David handle this situation? People will
Nice.
call his name and David knew what he was working with. He was powerful. He was amazing. However, he did not allow that to affect his ability to see and to know that you here on assignment. There is connected to your destiny, and you cannot allow what the noise, the things that you hear, the things that you see, the accomplishments, the growth, none of that to get in the way of that. Because at the end of the day, again, God has his people in mind. And then also being around people that help you stay grounded. I always tell people all the time, I may not have everybody in my corner, but as long as I got the right people, and not having yes people that can be like, all right, you too far out there right now. You know what I'm saying? Come on back in. It really helps a lot. And it takes you a long way, because you'd be surprised of, how many people who have people in their lives who encourage pride, who
God,
encourage treating people any kind of way. And no,
come
I,
on.
it costs us anything to say thank you, to be kind, to
Yeah.
have a good attitude when you go to these places and God send you places to minister and things of that sort. These are the people that God has assigned your destiny to, and it's very important that you keep those things in mind, because again, it takes you a long way.
Wow, that is so good.
Absolutely.
So good. Melvin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that is actually amazing how you said that. That's incredible. We are servants. We are here to serve God's people with the gifts that He has given us. And since I was a little boy, um, the thought of arrogance, the thought of it was not tolerated at all. So since I was a little boy, kindness, humility, just like I said, being a servant was the forefront to me. Knowing where my help comes from. This is all about Jesus. None of this matters if Jesus is not the center. That's why I was so adamant about putting that song on my record. This past record, we're here for no other. Why would we gather here if
Yeah.
Jesus is not the center of it all? I tell people all the time, hey, you're an amazing singer. You do this, you do that. Thank you, but God gets the glory, because without
Yeah.
Him, it's raps. So that's why. And being kind, I see. I
Come
just have to
on.
say this. I've seen so many of my heroes. I've met a lot of heroes, and a lot of them. Not that I didn't wish I would have met, because I'm glad I did, to know the know, but just to see how certain people, certain artists treat, whether it's fans, whether it's their teams, whether it's, I've seen it with my own eyes,
Yeah.
and it almost breaks my heart. And that's why I appreciate you, Jekalyn. Every time I've encountered you, seen you, you've always just carried yourself with grace and kindness, and it's a great thing to see. It helps, and we have to do our part to pull those along, to show people the way, in the right way. Not to say we're perfect, because we're not. I'm
Yeah.
not. I know
Yeah.
we're not perfect, but it's just we have to make efforts to show people that Jesus is the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so great. And it's refreshing to hear, because you represent, I'm old. I'm 45. Y'all are young. But to hear this in your generation, like, you have every reason to be arrogant. Like, you're supremely, superbly gifted. You have, the world has celebrated you, and you are so humble, and it is a get to, not a got to. The fact that God could have chosen anyone, the
Anybody.
fact that He chose me, because the reality is, as great as we are and as talented as we are, there's somebody sleeping up under a bridge that can outsing us, that can outplay us,
Yeah.
if they had the opportunity. And so I have seen it too, Melvin. I've seen people that were my heroes, and I say were because when I met them and I saw the arrogance, I saw the disdain, how they treated people, it was just ugly.
Yeah.
I just said, no, God, I don't want any parts of that. Not judging, but I said, I don't want any parts of that, because to me, that is how it's how you get disqualified from your next level.
Yeah.
And you'll keep singing and people still keep clapping, but God can strip the anointing from your life. And it's the whole Samson thing. You will shake yourself to do what you always did, and it ain't gonna work anymore because God has stripped it off your life. So the way that you all are safeguarding it by staying humble, by saying, God, thank you for choosing me. And what you're doing is, even though you are young, you all are an example to the generation that are coming up, behind you all. The 13-year-olds. There's another 13-year-old little preacher that's getting ready to start preaching because she heard your story, Jekalyn. There's a young man that's getting ready to step into ministry because he's seeing what God been able to do in your life. And I just want to take, because I'm an old head, I want to take a moment to celebrate and honor what God is doing in your lives, because it shows me that even though you've seen some really, really great things, God has so much more in store for you. We have like one or two more questions. I wanted to ask you this as it pertains to legacy. And I know you're young, but at some point in life, it becomes about my impact in those that are coming behind me. Have you begun to think about that yet? Or are you like, I'm still trying to absorb what's happening because it's happening right now. Melvin, let's start with you.
Yes, I would say both.
Hmm.
I recently, within the past maybe year and a half, I've got to meet a lot of children, or parents will come up to me and say, "Hey, can you please come say hey to my son, my daughter? They
Wow.
are just absolutely obsessed, with you and just what you do." And when I meet them, like I just see so much passion and just that. I just remember me as a little child, and though
Hmm.
I'm still searching and though I'm still trying to figure it all out, I have to encourage them to say,
Yeah.
hey, whatever you're thinking about, whatever that dream is, whatever is on your heart, go for it and don't stop.
Hmm.
Like that is so important. And building legacy has already begun. Like that's
Yeah.
begun years ago, and it's all about how we carry it and how we teach the next generation. Like, what are we teaching them? What are we showing them? And
Hmm.
I'm just grateful, for every child that I've met so far, just to speak into their lives. Whether it's a little, whether it's a lot. But
Yeah.
this next generation is a little shifty. Some of these kids are just, we gotta pray. But there are a lot of children out there who not
Yeah.
only have such bright futures but are on fire for God already.
Yeah.
And we have to do our job, not the older generations, but us. We have to do our job to nurture them
Hmm.
and to bring them up whatever way we can.
So good. So good. Jekalyn, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I would definitely have to agree. And for me, yes, I've definitely thought about legacy and just for me, I want them to know that it is okay to be who God has created you to be in your lane. And it is okay for you to be confident in that, and also to not limit yourself, especially when your mantle and your calling is so much more bigger than what you have seen, you have heard. um 'Cause I do believe that there are certain people and some people that God will use to make history, to do things that has never been done. Even in our genre, Melvin has done things that we have never seen done. Melvin
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
accomplished things and so many others. And with that being said, he couldn't have been able to do it if he allowed people, if he allowed what he's already seen, what he's already done to hold him in a box. And so I just want them to know that it is okay, that if God is trying to break protocol through you,
Yeah.
let him break protocol, do it. And all he say is, don't forget about me. Don't
Hmm.
forget about God. Don't forget the real reason as to why we should do it. And I understand we have different whys. It may be your children, and it may be your parents, or whoever the case may be. Also, let your main why be, there is destiny on my life, and I
Hmm. Come on.
any greatness that God has placed on the inside of me. And so those are some of the things that I want people to see.
Wow. Tremendous, tremendous. Guys, You have been an incredible blessing to me, and I'm hosting the podcast, but I'm sure this is going to be a blessing to everybody that listens to it. Again, I want to take a moment on behalf of just everybody to thank you for paying the price that you paid to carry the anointing that you carried, because I know it's costly. It cost you something. It cost you something. You don't carry that mantle free. It cost you something, and you didn't have to pay that price. You could have did something else. And so I'm so grateful that you paid it, that you're still saying yes to God. And because of that, God is saying, all right, so because you're saying yes to me, I can keep using you and I can keep blowing your mind. And I'm telling you, I'm believing that this year is the year that God is going to blow your minds. I'm believing that for you all. And it's just as an old head, I'm godly proud. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your life. Thank you for the legacy that you are leaving. And I'm praying God's continued blessings over you. And y'all be good. And Jekalyn, you keep preaching. And Melvin, you keep on singing, all right?